president of the Congressional Institute. Thank you for being here. The Institute was formed in 1987 for the purpose of hosting House Republican member retreats. Mike, we had to cancel last year's conference, as you know, because of the pandemic, so we're really glad to be back here in Florida. In addition to the issues conferences, we host similar events for House Republican chief of staff, legislative directors, communication directors, as well as holding retreats for individual members of Congress. We also do in-depth research and reports on congressional procedure and reform, which is fascinating for us nerds in this room, but it's also a natural sleep aid. Insomniacs. The Institute also sponsors the annual Congressional Art Competition that most members of Congress participate in. House Republicans during this conference retreat will be talking about global security, energy, the climate and conservation, censorship, big tech, and a healthy future for all of us. So I was going to say, well, without further ado, let me turn it over to not only the person who is the chair of the House Republican Conference, but one of the most respected members on national security, who's going to be a big part of our discussions on China.
Well, thank you, Mark. It's great to be here, great to be able to have our retreat in person. We have a range of really important issues that Mark began to mention that we're going to be focused on. We're meeting here at almost exactly the 100-day mark of the Biden presidency. And what we have seen so far in the Biden presidency is even farther left policies than we could have anticipated, and certainly than he campaigned on. And when you go down the list of what we've watched happen, particularly, as Mark mentioned, in the national security arena, we know that our adversaries are testing us. We know that they will test us. They test every new president, and they want to see what the responses are going to be. And so far, the responses that we've seen, whether you're talking about the Biden administration response on Russia, the Biden administration policy towards Iran, their lack of a real policy at this point towards China, the world is testing us, and the president and the administration have demonstrated an inability to really understand and recognize how important it is to demonstrate strength, how important it is to make sure that we can, in fact, deter our adversaries, that we can, in fact, make sure our allies can count on us. And it's very important. It gives us in Congress a much more important and enlarged role in terms of standing up, letting the rest of the world understand that we, in fact, are going to ensure that we defend ourselves, that we defend our allies. We're watching this happen and unfold now with respect to the defense budget. The budget is not where it needs to be. It does not have the kind of growth that it needs to have. There was also a report that came out just a month ago that was commissioned by the last National Defense Authorization Act, two acts ago in 2019, the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence. That report is going to be a significant part of our China discussions later this afternoon. And it's a report I commend to every American. It's long, but it is absolutely worth looking at to understand what the Chinese are doing in artificial intelligence and the threat that it poses to us, the threat that it poses to us across the board, whether you're talking about from the perspective of the military, in our everyday lives, their ability to essentially vacuum up data, their ability to use artificial intelligence to impose their surveillance state globally. That's something that we as Republicans are absolutely dedicated to fighting against. So we are looking forward to a series of substantive policy discussions. We know that as Republicans, we've got to make sure that we can stop the policies that are coming out of the Biden administration. That's going to require that we take back the House in 2 years or in a year and a half, which we're very well positioned to do. It's also going to require that we win the White House in 2024, which we also are going to be very well positioned to do, again, given how far to the left the Biden administration is moving. And let me just say one more word before I turn over to some of my colleagues. One of the issues on which many Americans are very focused and very concerned is what's happening at our border. And when you look at the humanitarian crisis, when you look at the children who are coming across the border who are being trafficked, the young girls who are coming across the border who've been raped, the extent to which the cartels, in too many instances, are actually at this moment controlling America's border. And let me say that again, the cartels are controlling America's southern border in too many places. And that is absolutely unacceptable. That's a result of Biden administration policies. And it's something that can't continue. In order for us to be secure as a nation, in order for us to make sure we can defend our people and our prosperity and our policies, we've got to secure that border. And the Biden administration can no longer ignore the problem. It's really shameful that they've named the vice president to be in charge of the border. She's denied she's in charge of the border, and now she hasn't visited the border. So they need to figure out how they're going to protect the American people, and that needs to start with undoing some of the policies they've put in place at the very beginning of their administration. That's another set of issues we'll be focused on. I'm joined today by members of our House Republican leadership, some members you don't normally see at our stakeouts. We're going to be spreading our stakeouts out over the course of the conference. And this morning, I've got joining me our vice chair of the conference, Mike Johnson from Louisiana, secretary of the conference, Richard Hudson from North Carolina, and our chief deputy whip, Drew Ferguson from Georgia. So with that, let me begin by turning things over to Mr. Mike Johnson for his remarks.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you all for being here. When I am back home in Louisiana, we hear a lot from all sectors everywhere around our community, a lot of really deep concern about the country and the direction we're headed and what's happening right now, from the border to every issue under the sun that we're here to talk about this weekend. People want to know, and they ask me often, what is the mood in Congress? What's the mood amongst your colleagues, the House Republicans? Your vice chair, you got your finger on the pulse. And I tell them, as frustrated and as alarmed as we are about the things that they're concerned about, what the Biden administration is doing for this country, the direction we're headed, we are also actually very optimistic and hopeful and even eager for the future. And so gathering everybody together like this gives us an opportunity to get off Capitol Hill and talk about our great plans that we have. We're absolutely confident and convinced that we're going to retake the House majority in the 2022 cycle. History says we should. There's a lot of factors working in our favor, and we're working really hard to make sure that happens. And when we do, when we are returned to the majority status and we get our governing moment again, as we like to say, we're going to be ready to go on day one. And so what we'll be doing between now and the time of that election is working hard to hold the line against some of these terrible Biden administration policies, but also communicating to the American people what we're for, not just what we're against, but the better plans and the answers that we have for all the great challenges facing the country. I'm really excited. Leader McCarthy and the whole conference is united in this idea that what we're going to be doing now, from now to the next election, is working in task forces across the conference in various subject areas, areas of jurisdiction, formulating these answers. We did this in the last Congress in the Republican Study Committee, which I chaired in the 116th Congress. We had 148 members, all the conservatives and House Republicans that worked together. And as many of you all know, we formulated about 350 pages of policy proposals that we put together to be prepared for that governing moment. Now we're going to do it conference-wide, and so everyone will be involved in this. Those processes are already beginning. We're really excited about putting that together, not only so that we can go out and message and share with the American people what we're for, but so we have the actual substance to back it up. So we're anxious for the future. We're excited about that. We believe our best days are ahead of us. We're going to get through these dark days as we see them, and we're going to be able to present a bold new vision for the country. Paint with bold colors, as Ronald Reagan used to challenge us to do. So with that, I'm going to yield to Richard Hudson, who is our conference secretary.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everybody. Appreciate y'all being here. I've been to a lot of these retreats, not as many as Jake Sherman, but I've been to a lot. And this one's different. This one feels different. The attitude of the members, the mood. And I think what's different is we know that we're going to be in the majority next Congress. And this is the beginning of our planning. We aren't just getting in rooms and talking about issues. We're actually planning what our agenda will be in our first 100 days in the next Congress. And so I think because of that, there's a different mood here. It's different. There's a seriousness about it. As Liz mentioned, President Biden's first 100 days happens this week. And as you look back over those 100 days, I give the president A+ on rhetoric, but I give him an F on results. And, when I go home and talk to my constituents, what they care about is what their family's going through. Are their children able to go to school? What's their economic situation like? And what they see coming out of Washington is so radical and so far to the left, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum. I really believe that is one of the main drivers of why we'll be in the majority next Congress. You look at the first 100 days of the Biden presidency, it's about making us less safe, about threatening jobs, and it's about taking issues that were bipartisan and making them partisan, like COVID relief, like infrastructure. These are ideas that we all agree on, and we all agree on a lot. But this president has decided to go it alone. He hasn't even reached out to Kevin McCarthy once in 100 days. And so again, the rhetoric doesn't match the result. And so this is about getting that majority back, and what will we do with that majority and the direction we want to see this country go. And so it's been a good retreat so far, and we look forward to the next couple of days. Appreciate y'all being here. Thank you. And I'll now turn it over to our Chief Deputy Whip, Drew Ferguson.
Thank you, Richard, and good morning, everyone. And what a wonderful time to be here together as a House conference. Looking at this first 100 days of Biden's administration, the thing that we've all realized is it's worse for American families than we could have ever imagined. And our conference is coming together in a way that I haven't seen since I've been in Congress, a sense of unity, a sense of passion and doing what's right for the American people. What I find when I go back home and when I travel around the country is that the policy, it's not just the rhetoric around the policies, but the actual policies of the Biden administration are having a profound negative impact on American families. Price of gas, price of food is going through the roof. People do not feel safe in their neighborhoods, and the crisis at the border is coming to a neighborhood near you. All of the cartel activity that is happening at the border is going to be transported to middle-class, suburban, and urban neighborhoods around this country. So the cartel activity is no longer going to be isolated at the border, but it's coming to the heartland. We're already seeing that. That is something that worries American families. Every single day, Americans get up, they go to work, job that they want, that they like. They want to live in a safe, decent neighborhood, in a decent home. They want to say in how their kids are educated, and they want the freedom to be who they want to be and have great opportunity in this country. And everything that the Biden administration has done, and more importantly, what the Speaker of the House has done, is they have taken all of those things, job, house, and education and freedom, and they're going in a direction that erodes all of those. Biden has killed jobs for the Keystone Pipeline, just killed them. And for him to say the jobs will come back, I've lived through that nightmare before, living in an area where we'd lost the textile industry because of decisions like NAFTA. The jobs just simply don't come back. He leaves the community in ruin. People don't feel safe in their neighborhoods. Actions to defund the police, and now we're seeing the Dems defund the military. It's not making Americans safer. Education, we want our children educated. We want them educated by professional teachers. We don't want to do this at home. That's not the right way to do it. What we're seeing with the erosion of civil liberties should scare every single one of us. And so we're here, come together, talk about the way to get this country back, restore the freedom and safety, security, and economic viability of this country. And I think Leader McCarthy has done a remarkable job of keeping the tent big enough to keep all Republicans under it right now so that we can come together with a unified message that will go out and put us back into the majority. And I feel confident that we're going to do that. So as we move forward, look for the excitement, the enthusiasm, the edge from this conference, because we're going to be here to fight for America. With that, I'll turn it back over to our chair.
Thank you, Drew. Thanks very much. We'd be happy to take questions. Let's go with Melanie. Yeah, look, our message going into the midterms is clearly going to be we're the party that can provide opportunity, we're the party that can provide hope, we're the party that's got the policies that actually will let the economy grow, encourage that economic growth, keep this nation safe, secure the border, and we're going to have multiple examples, as we already do, from the Democrats of what their agenda is and what the results of their policies are. And whether that's what's happening at the border today, whether it's the massive tax increases that are coming across, not just for the people that the president has named so far, but that will hit the middle class because of the new spending that they're proposing. We may well see inflationary pressures because of the new spending as well. I think there are real concerns, in addition to all of that, about China. And when you look at the list of issues on which we should be able to have bipartisan action, China is certainly one of those. I think that on both sides of the aisle, you see agreement about the magnitude and the scope of the threat. And instead of the speaker coming to work with us when the leader set up the task forces last Congress, she just blocked all participation by the Democrats. So, I think that the American people, given the challenges we face, given the crises that we've been through with the pandemic, given the economic consequences, given the national security situation, I think for too long, the American people have become willing or have become accustomed to the notion that we're always going to be superior, that our forces are always going to be predominant, that we'll always have the ability to project our power. That's not true anymore. Increasingly, we're seeing adversaries who can prevent us from being able to project our force, prevent us from being able to protect ourselves. For the first time in our history, we have to compete against not just one nuclear-armed great power adversary in Russia, but two now with China. So we've got, and it's the first time we've seen that in history, that we've got to be able to deter and defend ourselves. So when the American people look at the array of challenges and they look at the results of the Democratic policies, I think the choice is going to be very clear, and I feel very good about our ability to get the majority back. Yes.
You said in your statement, defending your vote on impeachment, that the President of the United States summoned this mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this attack. Everything that followed was his doing. Should Donald Trump be charged and prosecuted with anything?
Well, that's a decision that the Justice Department is going to have to make. I stand by my statement. There are ongoing criminal investigations, and those will play out. I do think it's really important that we have a commission. I think that, it's been too long. Whether you look at the Speaker's initial proposal, which was very clearly partisan, that delayed us. It shouldn't have. We need, if you look at what happened after Pearl Harbor, if you look at what happened after the Kennedy assassination, if you look at what happened after 9/11, we established a bipartisan commission. And it ought to be a commission, in my view, that is, the members of the commission should be retired. They shouldn't be currently serving officials that face political pressure of any kind. It should be absolutely bipartisan in nature. And it should begin immediately. It should have subpoena power, and it should begin immediately, because the American people need to know how we got to January 6th, what happened on January 6th, and people need to be held accountable.
Kevin McCarthy said yesterday that he would like for that commission to have a broader focus on all recent political violence. What is your view? Should that commission be focused on a full accounting of January 6th specifically?
I think that what happened on January 6th is unprecedented in our history. And I think that it's very important that the commission be able to focus on that. I'm very concerned, as all my colleagues are, about the violence that we saw, the BLM, the Antifa violence last summer. I think that's a different set of issues, a different set of problems, and a different set of solutions. And so I think it's very important that the January 6th Commission focus on what happened on January 6th and what led to that attack. Jake.
On China, the Endless Frontiers Act and a package of those bills, bipartisan in the Senate, are, they're going through over there. Curious what you think of that and what you think about its prospects in the House on your side of the aisle.
Look, I think all of those approaches, whether you're talking about an economic approach, whether you're talking about moving supply chains, whether you're talking about looking at the extent to which the Chinese government holds our debt, the extent to which federal employees' thrift savings plans accounts are invested in companies, some of which have connections to the Chinese military, all of those things require us to act, and it's not always comfortable. We are very much connected economically to the Chinese, but I think that whether it's that package of bills, whether it's the package of bills that we proposed coming out of the China task force, we're certainly today facing a situation where if we don't address and grapple with the magnitude of this threat, And again, we just had the Stratcom commander brief us in open session in the Armed Services Committee about the velocity and the pace and he said it was breathtaking, actually. The government of China's recent moves in terms of deployment of modernized nuclear forces and new types of weapon systems. So while we have been very focused, as we should have been, on a whole range of domestic issues, the Chinese government has been moving very aggressively. And I think as in Congress, we need to take whatever steps are necessary. Yeah.
You guys are going to talk about border issues as part of your 2022 agenda. Are you going to revive the idea that there should be further construction of the border wall?
Yeah, I think there certainly should be. I think that's one of the things that President Biden could very easily do. He stopped construction of the wall. He ought to restart that again. I think we need to look at every possible tool and mechanism we have to secure the border. That includes the wall. It includes technology. It includes being able to move again towards the agreements where people who are seeking asylum stay in Mexico. But this whole set of issues is one that I think is going to be very much part of 2022 and 2024 because we have to secure the border. We cannot continue down this path that Joe Biden has set us on. It's simply unsustainable. But we also at the same time have to understand that the United States of America has always been a beacon for people who are seeking freedom. And that if you look at our history, our history is as great as it is because of innovation, because of immigration, because of people who've come to this country and have helped us to build a better nation and who've helped us to advance. And so we've got to find ways that we can help to encourage legal immigration, particularly, you look at this issue of artificial intelligence. We want to make sure that we get the very best people, the very most technologically capable people who are working on these cutting-edge issues. We want them here in the United States. And we want them helping us develop our programs, not helping the Chinese develop their programs. So I think we've got to look at the role of education, but we also have to find ways to have legal immigration in a way that reflects that the United States of America is a beacon of freedom and that we depend upon immigrants, for every aspect of our economy.
Could I say one thing on that? Could I jump in on
Yeah.
the wall thing? I think it's really important to understand what's happening on the border. And a lot of us have gone. That's why we keep saying the vice president needs to go to the border and see what's happening. Because what's happening with the border wall is we've already purchased the materials. They're already sitting on the job site. And we are paying the contractors now to not build the wall. Because we appropriated the money. And the money is being spent to not build the wall. And when you go look, you can drive down the highway near the border and see the gaps in the wall. And it's like someone who, some of the teeth got knocked out, and you see that it's obvious that whether you want to have a policy debate about how much wall, for what we've already appropriated, like the president just stopped it because
For political purposes, yeah. So, okay, last question. I think right now, the Republican Party is headed by Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy in the House. I think our elected leaders, are the ones who are in charge of the Republican Party. And I think as we look at 22 and 24, we are very much going to be focused on substance and on the issues. And I think that's where we've got to attract back the voters that we lost in 2020 by conveying to them that, in fact, we are the party that they can trust. We're the party of competence and of conservative principles. Thank you.